Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 31st, 2021 at approximately 11:26 a.m. PST. Well, I keep talking about this whole issue about putting a list together. Okay, and the reason for it is simple. When you're striving to turn your life around, change it from where it is, from what you're not content with, what I found for most people is that it is easier if you set things up in a small list. Okay, 15-minute to half-hour jobs. Because of that, now I got started my day very early today. I usually do. I was up at 4 a.m. local time. Okay, and I've already managed to get 8 things done that I needed to do. Not to mention getting a little bit of time to relax. Okay. However, that said, I've still got another 9 that I've added to my list. What ends up happening by the end of the day, I can look at the end of the day and go, I got X number of things accomplished. So I don't feel like my day has been a waste. Now, I did push it a little hard today because I went for my walk. I usually do a half mile in the morning, and roughly, or if you will, a kilometer in the morning, depending on what country you're in. Okay, I do one lap of the track, and then I go back for a second one. But this morning I went out and decided to do it without my cane. Not the brightest idea. Okay, I'm paying for it now. But you know, the reality is you can let whatever hindrance you have guide whether you do things, or you can decide you're going to do it in spite of it. In my case, I'm just stubborn. But as we change things around here, as we get the world moving again, we have to avoid going back to the way it was. Okay, and what I mean by that is we've got to get communication lines back up and running. So whether you go, whether you find a church to go to, you find a temple to go to, you find a group of friends to connect with, doesn't really matter. What matters is that you find a support group that you're comfortable with, of like-minded people that are focusing on the positive things in life. Okay, really question if you're connecting with people where everybody's going, oh, the world's going to end and it's such a miserable place and you have to fear whatever. If you're connecting with people that are focusing on the negative, you're going to start to look at it. If you don't already, you're going to look at the world in a negative fashion. Okay, but it takes a certain kind of group of people to take somebody that's got a very negative outlook and go, okay, we can tolerate the fact you're negative, but let's get you to look at the world in a different fashion. And this is why I tell people, when you're looking at the various different spiritual guides out there and the various different religions, okay, if they are talking to you, I'll talk about that in a sec. If they are telling you that you must fear things because they're different than you, well, I like the way my father used to put it. This world would be extremely boring if everybody was identical. Okay, it's absolutely imperative that we all have different things, different strengths, different weaknesses, different interests. I mean, Lord knows they want to look better than I do. Okay, but that said, one of my goals for this month, and I don't know if I'm going to start the routine down at the gym, but I am going to go down and talk to somebody because I'd like to get in better physical shape for me. Okay, and I will tell you, when you strive to change your life, the most effective way of doing it is to get centered on yourself and go, it's for me that I'm changing. Okay, yes, your appearance may please your partner. It may make other people look at you and go, yeah, we like what you're looking at. But if you're not personally interested in doing it, you're going to have a hard time maintaining it in all likelihood. Okay, so the changes I make to me are because they're what I desire. Okay, do I talk it over with my other half and let her know what I'm thinking? Certainly. I mean, it was comical because my hair used to be a lot longer, as you know. Right, well, if you look at my prior videos, you'll know. And one day I got this idea, and I contacted my other half, and I went, look, do you prefer long hair or short hair? And she goes, well, I prefer being a little shorter, but she says, this is not a make or break deal. I said, no, you misunderstand. It wasn't a question of whether or not it was make or break. It was a question of I was looking at cutting it. But had you preferred it longer, I'd have left it that way. Okay. But the reason for making the change was because that was what I desired to do. Same as when I said yesterday that I was putting a list together. Okay. And I work with them quite consistently. Lists, I mean. When we take a look at our life, it is easier to look in the mirror and go, I'm not content with this, than it is to say, in 5 years, I may be happy with this path. Okay, how many people do you know that you've talked to and they've said, I'm going to become such and such a professional when I get older? And you get partway through it and all of a sudden you shift gears. It's like, I don't want to do that. I know of one in particular that could have had a phenomenal career in could have had a phenomenal career in chemistry. They were doing extremely well. But then they happened to find themselves, got introduced to computers. And much as they were very close to finishing, from what I understand, they were very close to finishing their degree in chemistry. They walked away and built a really good career in the computer programming field. Okay, this is why I tell people, when you're told you've got to have a plan in place by the time you're 20 to get your life in order, in order to be successful, 2 flaws. One, you're the only one that can figure out what is success to you. Okay, nobody else can tell you what is success. They can, some people, like for instance myself, I can tell you how to get to what you're aiming for. Okay, or at least point you in the right direction. But it's up to you to do the work. Now, no matter who tells you what you would be good at, you may well be good at something, but if it doesn't have the passion, it's going to be a problem. Now, I keep talking about this idea of encouraging people to go after their passion. Go after their dreams. Well, I've made a commitment to myself that I am going to, there's another individual I know of that has a dream. They've got a real passion and a real talent for it. So we have decided, and when I say we, I decided that I'm going to give her a hand. Okay, now, like many of you, okay, first and foremost, many people that have dreams also have this idea, I want to do it on my own. I don't want to rely on anybody else. Well, it's not a question of relying on other people. It's a question of getting a hand up so that you can get what you're aiming for. Okay, but remember, and this is one of the reasons why when I redid my life path, if you will, the 2 steps the 3 things, and it's down to 3. It used to be like 15 different things, and I sheared the whole thing down and went, what do I really have to have on that list? So I made the commitment to myself that when my utility bills come in, I'm going to pay them off with my credit card, which, yeah, that sounds like I'm borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, but here's the thing. By paying it with my credit card, okay, I'm still getting the bill paid, and the money's still sitting in the bank. Then, on the 17th of the month, I will take the money that I would have paid on the utilities and put that all on the credit card, paying the credit card off completely. Net result, the utility bill gets paid, so I don't have to worry about that. The credit card bill gets paid, don't have to worry about that. But my particular credit card has extra, it's got cash value to it, that I can go in and buy stuff that I earn points, I earn cash, to go in and buy other stuff that I don't have to pay for. So I get the benefit there as well. Okay, so that's 2 of the items I put on the list. The third one comes all the way back to what most people, if you come from any sort of a religious background, and pretty much any one of the religions that I'm aware of, they talk about tithing. Now, I will tell you this. I don't tithe to any church. But, at least in the St. James Version of the Bible, it tells you 10%. So I looked at it and went, well, I'm now making more money than I used to. I used to make barely enough money to cover my bills, never mind do anything else. So I've gone, here's how I'm going to tithe. I won't give money to the church, because in my opinion, they're not doing anything functional with it anyway. Okay, and don't get me wrong, the churches do a lot of good. Okay, and this is why I say go back. The brotherhood side of the churches and temples is a great thing. But from what I've seen, we still have a staggering number of people out there that are starving, a lot of people that are ill, and it's not being, the churches are getting a staggering amount of money, but they're not curing the problem. Frankly, I know of some churches locally that they chase the homeless away from the church. Now, in my opinion, they're going way outside of what was intended. So what I do when it comes to this idea of 10% is I've literally listed it off as I'm going to take a look at 10% of my income, and I'll use that as the marker. And the three different ways that I'm looking at, and this is just for me personally, I won't give to the church, I won't give to registered charities. And the reason I won't give to registered charities myself is, and they do a lot of good work, don't get me wrong. The problem with them, in my opinion, from every bit of research I've done, shows that the administration cost eats most of the charitable donation. So where I'm turning around and doing things a little different, and this is just my way of dealing with it, is either by forgiving debts that people owe me, okay, or buying people, not friends, not that I'm supporting people that I normally deal with, but strangers, buying their groceries, or buying them a meal while they're out. Okay. And like I said, these are not people I'm sharing the meal with. These are not people that I'm going grocery shopping with. Okay, unless I just happen to be providing transport. But those three methods, okay, are what I'm going to be using to do that. And the reason I'm doing it, and it is for me, karmic law says energy out, energy in. So what I'm looking at is I put the energy out. I help other people. I share with other people. And hopefully it'll come back to me. Okay, it may not. It may go and be a case of, well, it will come back eventually. What happens is I help that person. They go and help another person over here. And that other person comes back and helps me. This is the way the world continues to roll. Okay, this is how we change the world to a better world. Okay. Karmic law is the foundation of what I work with. Be true to yourself first. And you'll notice I've said a lot of the things I'm changing are for me. They will have benefits to other people, absolutely. But I'm making the changes because I desire to make them for me. Okay. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If you desire to be treated well, treat the people you're dealing with well. If you desire to be treated, nicely by animals, well, do your best to figure out how to treat the animals nicely. Dead giveaway, don't kick them. Okay, they don't like that much. And rest assured, if you're kicking animals and a horse gets a hold of you, you're going to pay for it. But, and then you have energy out, energy in, which we've already discussed. Okay, so these are the ways of working it together. Now, everybody on the planet, every living entity, okay, living by whatever definition you desire to use, is in exactly the same point right now. They are all right where they are right this moment. And it is right in this moment that we can start effecting change to make this world a more enjoyable one for everybody. Hence why I've used the term multiple times that I have a sign, Okay. I have a sign on the back here that says, I am worth it. Now, this other sign that's hanging up, the wood there, it's got to be redone. We've got to get it corrected, but that'll come in time. That is a sign that says, be true to yourself. Okay, these are simple reminders to help put things in perspective and make your world go a little bit more effectively. Yeah, looking for these things. I mentioned I'm still working with this side of it. Okay, but the reality is, it is time that we all start working together. Put the negative side pieces aside. Realize that no matter what skin color somebody has, no matter what income bracket they live in, or what gender, or what age, everybody is of the same value. Okay. There's been a lot of things going across the news, and like I mentioned, okay, I have talked about this the last couple of days, and to me, it's a very important factor. Because I used to, before the internet came out, I could not understand why the major news companies were putting out all this negative, who stole from who ripped who off, who got murdered, and they'd splash it all over the front page. And when I talked to the reporters and to the owners of these companies, they would turn around and tell me, this is what the people want. And I'm thinking, 95% of the population that I run into are decent, nice people. They come from various backgrounds, but they're nice people. So how can 90 to 95 nice people, percent of the nice people, desire negative information? And then the internet hit. And I found out that it's not the major company and moguls. The moguls were reading it right. The people that were buying the papers, that were listening to the news, they were demanding the negative stuff. And the reason I put it that way is because I look at the internet now, at Facebook, at Twitter, at LinkedIn, and a number of others. All over the place, all what you're seeing, the majority of it is who ripped who off. Okay, who embarrassed somebody to make themselves feel better. Okay, it's all this negative garbage, but the fact of the matter is, it's you people that are doing it. It's you people that are spreading this negative information, that are retweeting, that are reposting, are forwarding this negative stuff. Now, negative stuff happens. It absolutely does, and it does need to be reported. But where it comes to physical periodicals, okay, I'm asking you, instead of putting it on the front page, put it on the back pages. Bury it inside. It still needs to be reported. If people are looking for it, they can find it. But start putting the positive interactions on the front end. Okay, where it comes to news media, where we're talking the television. Okay, I'm asking the directors, the people that actually are the program directors, I think is the title they use, to start focusing on the positive things. Who got married? What organization opened up this thing to help people? Okay. This sort of thing. Put that on as your headline news. A lot of reporters have been taught that that's what's called fluff work. Just a little fluff piece, a filler. Make the fillers the negative things. Because as far as I understand it from the psychologists I've talked to, the majority of people that break the law, that are doing something mean or doing something, cruel, they do it to get attention. Well, if you're putting their name all over the front page, they're getting the attention, you're feeding exactly what they're asking for. Okay. It's time to start focusing on celebration, on what's happening that's working well. It's time to stop looking at the people around you and going, oh my gosh, you don't look exactly like I do. Okay, therefore, you've got to be evil. I've got to be afraid of you. I remember walking through a grocery store one day, and this tiny little munchkin, she turned and looked at me and she started talking. Okay, she didn't come anywhere near me. She was a good, 6, 7 feet away. And so I stood and talked to her for a moment. And her father come around the corner and tore a strip off her. Don't talk to strangers. Stay away from them. You don't talk to strangers. The poor little munchkin was almost in tears. So I looked at the guy and I says, I know I'm overstepping, but welcome to my world. I says, you do realize, number one, I absolutely agree that you should never approach a stranger, especially kids. They do not know what they're dealing with. You don't approach a stranger. Okay. But I says, you do realize that that little munchkin, when it was born, was a stranger to you, and you were a stranger to them. What you're saying is you should never talk to your kid when they're newborn. Is this the message you really want to give to you, that you really desire to give to your kids and to the people around you? Talking to strangers is absolutely imperative. We have a world with about 7.5 billion people on it. Okay, so it really does boil down to an issue of it is imperative we learn to communicate, that we remember how to communicate. It used to be you could walk down the street, and if you said hi to people, they'd say hi back, or they'd at least smile. Right now, people are so caught up in the negative side of things and in the fear that's been propagated through the so-called spiritual guides, i.e., let's raise your spirit. Fear everybody. There's a brilliant idea, like that always works. We can tell, considering that from my understanding, a good 80% of wars are propagated because of differences in religious opinion. I mean, to me, this is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, now, as I told a young gentleman today, okay, he had retired from the military, and like I told him, I have the utmost respect for people that are willing to go into the military to protect their country. Absolutely, or go into the police force to protect their family or protect the family of the community. Okay, I question the direction that a lot of these the upper echelon point things. Your generals, your captains, this sort of thing. I mean, everybody has orders, and you really have to wonder what they're trying to do sometimes. But the people that are actually going into these fields are going in on the whole to help people. And hats off. When I was assistant manager to a fast food restaurant, I used to when first responders came into the store to order something, I would pull them out of line and put them at the front of the line and serve them as quick as I could. Because in my opinion, it was real simple. If they got a call, right, and it could come in at any point, they would have to leave their meal. They would have to go and deal with it, right? So get them fed as quick as possible so that they're able to go. I used to get flack from some of the customers. Well, why are you pulling them forward? And understand, these people would come in their uniforms. Okay, this is they talk about military people suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. If you've gone to war, and it's a terrible thing, right? People talk about the police suffering from it periodically. They forget about the ambulance drivers, the firemen. Okay, they forget about the emergency call workers. These people also end up suffering from PTSD. They are providing a service that is absolutely invaluable. Okay, and our hats go off to them. Okay, the reality is, if you're doing a job, doesn't matter what it is, every job has value. When we're looking at waitresses put up with a staggering amount of flack, a staggering amount of abuse, and there is no functional reason for it in my eyes. I asked one person, they were tearing a strip off a waitress, and all she was doing was her job. And this guy started tearing a strip off her. And she didn't, she was a new waitress, and I just looked at her, and it's like, okay, that doesn't work. And I looked at the guy, I says, tell me, do you feel better? And he looks at me and goes, well, no, this is wrong. I says, I didn't ask if anything was wrong. I asked if you felt better. Well, not really. Why? I says, because what you're doing to her is certainly not making her feel better. Okay, if what you're doing, if what you're doing isn't helping, isn't making her feel better, button your lip or leave the store. Okay, now understand, I didn't work for this store. I was simply another patron. But I'm not exactly known for being, shall we say, silent. In case you hadn't noticed. You know, and the reality in my eyes is this. If you're going to claim to be some way, be true to you. Okay, every tool I talk about when I'm talking about this, every one of the tools is ones that I personally use. Okay, or I've helped enough people with them and gotten the feedback, like for instance, showing people how to stop smoking. I never started. I'm not about to start. Okay, but I have helped other people quit. Now, this is coming up the half-hour mark here. So, with that in mind, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You know, my goal is to get this message to go absolutely global. Okay, not just to the people on the net. I'd like to see this message carried to other people that don't have access to the net, that may not have access to technology at all. Okay, that's my goal. Okay, I'm asking you to give me a hand with it and spread this word. The word is simple. Working together, we can make this a better world. We can wipe out famine. We can wipe out war. And yes, it's a long haul. It's not going to happen overnight. But the point being, it can be done when we work together. Okay. Now, that said, at the bottom of the list, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, absolutely look at the bottom of the video here. You'll see a list of contact points that you can reach me at. Okay, reach out to any one of them. I'm not that hard to find. I do my best to respond to the comments or to the questions. There's also a list of different publications that I've already got in print. Okay, that can only be ordered through me at this point. Okay, but you can get in touch with me. Absolutely do so. I would be... Yeah, that came out well. But this is a live reading. Not live reading. This is a live broadcast. Meaning, I don't edit anything. You get all the hiccups. But I will be back tomorrow. Okay, at some point. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.